Hey guys, this is Lisha from Scarlet Moon Creations, and this is my mid-February reading wrap-up where I talk about the books that I read in the first half of the month of February 2021. Hey guys, how's it going? How are you doing? I hope you're doing good. How's your reading? Because mine is going great. No, I'm participating in three readathons because it's been a couple of months and obviously I need to overdo it. But yeah, all books I want to read, which helps. Um, so the main one I'm going to be talking about here is probably Polarthon. Um, this is a readathon run by JD Ray Reads and her various co-hosts. Links down in the description below. This is my first time participating in Polarthon, even though this is the third year, but things happen. And I had a bunch of polar fantasies that I wanted to read, and I picked Team Arctic Fox, and our team leader is the Wild Sasha. So check out our channel, link in the description. And there were 5 prompts for each team, 4 team prompts, and then 1 prompt for the whole thing, which was to read a polar fantasy. As I talk about the books, I'll let you know what prompts. Now, the other 2 readathons, there's Blackathon, run by the amazing, the wonderful, the talented, the gorgeous Jessie from Bow Ties and Books. This is also, I think, the 3rd year for Blackathon. I'm in there like swimwear as I am every year, though I have been reading more books with black main characters, black cast characters that are not the main characters, and also books by black authors in various genres. So I didn't go too hard in planning for this. I did decide to go with team science fiction and fantasy, and our team leader is the illustrious Starla from Starla Reads, link down in the description. The last readathon I'm participating in this month is farofeb. This is kind of more than a readathon. It's a celebration of fantasy romance, Pharaoh. And it's run by authors who write fantasy romance for the most part. So check out their Instagram and the website, link down in the description. I haven't really thought about the prompts exactly yet, so I'll probably go over those in my February wrap-up video at the end of the month, because I'll fit whatever books, because I have a whole lot. But I'll tell you what is fantasy romance as I go through. That being said, let's talk about the books, because it's been a while. The first book I finished in the month of February was The Winter and the Witch by Catherine Arden. This is book 3 in the Bear and the Nightingale trilogy. Excuse me. Where we follow the life and growing up of Vasya Petrovna, who is living in, I think it's 1100s Russia. This is before the USSR. This is before really Russia was a united country under one king, kinda. So yeah. This is kind of like a folklorish fantasy where in the first book we follow Vasya, who's a young girl. Her mother has recently passed away, and her father is like the leader of her village, and he decides he needs to remarry for his kids' sake, and he marries a woman who is from the city of Moscow. She's not used to, rural life. in Russia and in the winter. And also, she is very Catholic, where the rural areas of Russia, the rural villages, are more pagan, as we would call it now. They feed the spirits of the house, of the stables, of water or whatever, and so they keep a good relationship and things go well in their lives. But this new wife is very much against that. She's also very much against Vasya, who's a little bit of a wild girl. She takes after her dad, and she likes to be in the forest and be in amongst things. Her idea of a great life is not to be a mother and a child and taking care of the home. So they butt heads, things happen. Also, it comes to light that Vasya has some connection with these pagan spirits, like the Domovoy, as an example. And she's also has caught the eye of the Winter King, and the bear. So dealing with that. So yeah, that's a brief synopsis. It's very well written. It felt like a folk tale. In the later books, it's a little less beautifully written. I don't know how to put this, but something about the writing becomes a little bit more practical, which is okay. We're dealing less with a young girl who does not know the world around her, to dealing with a girl who's forced to know the realities of the world around her. In this one, we get a little bit more magic back in again, but it's still more practical as Vasya's an adult now. So, yeah, I love this. I do believe I gave it 5 stars because it was a great ending. I could only wish for a little bit more to know how she broke things, how she talked with her sister at the end. But I liked it. Catherine Arden clearly knew where she was going with this, because I didn't know how things were going to turn out for Vasya. Honestly, like, what were her options? What were the options for the people? What were the options for the spirits? It was very, like, But she definitely did her research on Russian folklore and history, because this is kind of a historical fantasy as well. And I just really appreciated this series so very much. It's a new favorite. For Witchathon, I read The Winter of the Witch for the prompt of polar fantasy, and yes, it was icy magic. So that fulfilled 2 prompts in my Polathon team. The next book I read in the month of February was The Ballad of Black Tom by Victor Laval. This book fulfilled the Polathon prompt to read a retelling. Now, if you watched my previous recent reads video, my January wrap up with stats or whatever, I talked about reading H.P. Lovecraft's The Horror of Red Hook, and I read that specifically because I knew I was going to read this. This is a horror fantastical retelling of that story, and it's much better. The author is clearly not bigoted. This is a black male author, so this also fulfills some prompt for Blackathon. I don't know which one. I don't think it fulfills a prompt for my team, but I haven't decided or looked at that into that yet. But the big deal is the fact that it's a black author that I read during Blackathon. But anyway, this is my first, like, contemporary horror, I guess. This is a historical setting. This is during set in Jazz Age New York City. We're following Charles Thomas tester who is a hustler, a grifter. That's his job. That's how he puts food on the table. He has watched his parents toil and work themselves into the bone while being treated basically like shit by white people. His mom and dad loved him and raised him with love and respect, but he doesn't want to go out like that, basically. So he is out here fooling mostly white people into paying him for things. And one day he is in Brooklyn, I don't remember why, and he's approached by this man, Mr. Sudan, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly, so please forgive me. Mr. Sudan is a somewhat wealthy white man who lives in Red Hook, Brooklyn, and he hires Tommy to play at a party of his the next night. It's all very clandestine, very suspect, but Tommy's like, I'm gonna get this money. And the story unfolds from there. So this is a story in two parts. The first half, is it told in Tommy's point of view, and the second half is told from white Irish detective Malone, a New York City police department detective. And it was fascinating. This was actually entertaining, whereas H.P. Lovecraft's Horror of Red Hook was, like I said in the previous thing, like a fever dream writing. You get a feel for the city as it is, rather than the disgust that H.P. Lovecraft had. You can see clearly all of the racial profiling, the bigotedness, the distrust between the various nationalities, races, sexes in some cases, and and a couple of the occult and religious aspects that were pertinent to the story without throwing everyone in there, and without, the author being a bigoted asshole. So there's that. I appreciated the look. I appreciated the characters. I appreciated the point that Laval had with this story. This was genuinely entertaining, and I can't wait to read more from this author, because this was good. Tommy just gets into the world of the occult and magic, and it's not all good. So yeah, do check this out because it's short. This I guess novella, yeah, this novella was good. Or maybe it's a short story. I one day will actually look up the definitions of novella and short story to figure out what the difference is, so I know what I'm saying when I'm saying. I rated the Ballad of Black Tom 4 stars, so check it out. Alright, and yeah, I told you what the Polarthon prompt was. The next book I read in the month of and finished in the month of February was A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J. Maas. Now, for Polarthon, I read this for the prompt silver on the cover. You guys, those who don't have a library edition, like, her dress is silver, right? Is this stuff silver? I don't know, but I'm the dress is silver, so that's what I'm going with. This is book 3.5 in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series by Sarah J. Maas. I'm caught up. I read this for myself, but I also read this as part of the read along for acotaralong, excuse me. Link down in the description. This is the last published book. As I'm filming this, I think, yep, we've got another week before the next book comes out, the next part in the series. So I was trying to read before that came, and I now have. I'll put in a link down in the description for acotaralong, because the live show for this is coming up as well, if this goes up before then. So anyway, this is a fantasy romance series. So here we have my first fantasy romance during Fantasy Romance February, farofeb. This is a series of YouTube darling, but for people who've just watching me or never heard of it, the first book is A Court of Thorns and Roses. We're following Feyre, who is a regular human in a world where humans and the Fae are separated by an old war and a wall literally running between their countries, keeping them separate. They are supposed to stay on each side of their wall and not venture over, and if they do, they cannot harm or kill each other. Feyre is part of a family that is on its last legs. She is the only one that is capable of providing for them. She has taught herself how to hunt just so they can have food on their table. One day in the middle of winter, while she is out hunting, she comes across a Fae male who is out hunting himself on her side of the wall, the human side, and he's hunting as some kind of beast, and she knows this, and in her anger, so she kills him and then goes about her business. Later that day or the next day, something like that, his high lord comes to exact revenge, finds her family destitute, so instead of killing her and all of them, he just takes her, kidnaps her back to his side of the wall and the spring court of the Fae. And obviously Feyre's life changes completely from there. Now this is a novella, I think. It's 221 pages, not including the sneak peek to the next book, which I read anyway, so maybe just a little bit less than 300 pages, maybe around 250, I don't know. But in this one, there's no real plot. It's the aftermath of A Court of Wings and Ruin, book 3, and we're watching everyone prepare for the winter solstice, which is not a huge deal in the Night Court, but somewhat of a holiday. And we're watching everybody deal with PTSD from a war, from all kinds of other things that they've had to confront in the last couple of books, and, you know, try to attempt to put their lives back together, or at least some of them are attempting to help each other, or some of them are attempting to help each other. And we get Feyre's point of view, Rhys's point of view, Cassian's point of view, Morgan's point of view, maybe a couple of others. There's talk about some of the tertiary characters, like the spring court, the autumn court, the winter court, who really does it up for the winter solstice, obviously. So yeah, very interesting. This is really for fans of the series and fans of the inner circle, because I don't think you would care if you're not invested in the characters. So the series as a whole is very character driven, but this is only character driven. There's like no plot in this. We're just having little vignettes as they go about their days and deal or not deal. We're checking in with them, basically. Like, oh, what's going on with this one after this? You know, that kind of thing. I gave this 4 stars. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I I am very interested in the next book, which comes out next week. I probably won't read it for several months because I'm waiting for a library edition, but yeah, I will continue with this series because I enjoyed it. I really like these characters and I want to see what happens next. Alright, let's talk about the next book I finished in the month of February, and that was an ebook I got from the library, Shards of Hope by Nalini Singh. This is book 14 in the psy-changeling series, and I finally read it and actually enjoyed it more than I expected to. So this is a favorite series of mine that I'm trying to catch up on. I started to catch up on it last year, I think it was. And then I came to this book and I was like, I don't know if I want to read this. And so much time has passed because I've been hemming and hawing. But I finally forced myself to, and I really enjoyed it. The psy-changeling series is set in a futuristic Earth, not that far in the future. I think it's like 2080 something or something like that. But anyway, this Earth is a little bit different even if you look at the present times, because it is inhabited by three human sentient type races, that is human beings like me and you, the changelings, which are people who can change into some other animal form, and they live in packs and are very close with their emotions. They tend to be stronger than humans, and the Psy, who I'll get to in a second, physically stronger and physically healthier, I guess. They also have stronger instincts. So that is the changelings. Basically, in paranormal romance, which the series is, they're were animals of some kind or other. In this series, they're called changelings. Now, the third race is the most unique to this series, the Psy. The Psy are psychics, basically. Well, their powers lie in the mind, the cerebral area. They're very good at business. And they all have psychic powers. What makes the Psy even more unique is the fact that 100 years ago, the Psy realized that their race in particular is more likely to become psychotic, to go on killing sprees and things like that. And so to save their race, they decided to enact this thing called silence, which is basically the complete eradication of emotion from everyone. This includes their children. And for 100 years or so, the Psy have been silent, cold, hard, fact-led society, very logical, very, like I said, they have various types of psychic abilities, and they basically train their children to be without emotions as they grow up, and they reinforce that in the adults. And it's about as bad as you think it is. So anyway, this particular book, we follow two characters who... See, the thing is, I like series like this because we hear about characters and then we meet them. We see characters show up in several books in the previous ones, and then we get to see them have their kinda happily ever after, more like happy for now, when they get their own book, and I really do enjoy that. But we got Aiden, who has been mentioned like once or twice, and now that I've read the book, I realize this was on purpose. And another character who was only mentioned once. in 13 books. And I was just like, I don't care about these guys. And then I watched a couple of reviews, and people were like, they didn't really feel much for this. So I really wasn't looking forward to it, but I knew that after this book there's a special trilogy, and I really wanted to get to it. But anyway, I did like Aiden and Zaira, I think that's her name. If not, I'll put it on the screen. I did like their relationship. I like that it wasn't easy. I mean, none of these relationships are easy. Aiden and Zaira are two psy. They're both arrows, or leaders in the arrow. Arrows are like the black ops of the psy race. So they're even more, or seen as more silent, more cruel, more cold than even the average everyday psy are. But that's not completely true. So things have been changing in the previous books for the psy race, and Aiden is the Arrow's leader, and he wants to change as well. So he's trying to figure that out. Zaira is worried because she thinks that without silence, that she could become one of these violent psy. And yeah, so their get together is nice. I love the kids. I love the kids so much. Oh my god, they melted my heart. One of the things they're trying to do is have this Arrow children readjusted. Arrows are seen as kind of violent as it is because they're black ops, and what the psy do when their kids get violent, they drop them off with the arrows. Like, well, if this is how you're gonna be, then you might as well be a stone cold killer for our race, kind of thing. And so they get raised in this militaristic type of corner of the psy society, and it's wild. It's wild to me. Also, there's new things coming, and I like the way that was built up. So I wound up giving this 4 stars. And paranormal romance is a subset of fantasy romance. So this I read for fantasy, for farofeb as well. I haven't picked out what prompts yet. Because the next book I read, Wolf Song by TJ Klune. I read the ebook for this from the library. This is book 1 in the Green Creek series. Oh my god. Before I get into it, okay, this is a male love male romance, paranormal romance. So again, for fantasy romance, February, farofeb, I read this book. I've been hearing about this book kind of low-key through booktube, and I really wanted to give it a try. And this is Own Voices. So I have not read a paranormal romance that wasn't heterosexual. This is my first one, and I loved it. I love this so much. Like, within the first couple of pages, I was hooked. You have to love Ox. And what's the other thing? The funny thing is, one of the main characters is named Ox, and I started reading this during the Lunar New Year, and which is the start of the Year of the Ox. So that was amusing to me. So we have Ox, who's growing up in somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, as a lot of these things seem to happen. And so the first half of this book is kind of meet cute with a little sprinkling of paranormal in there. Only in like the second quarter of the book, after Ox finds out, and then the second half of the book happens, and it's tears, and it's pain, and it's hardship, and it's, oh my god, like, TJ Klune wrote such an amazing book Such an amazing book. I honestly was like, how is this a series? They better be doing good. They better be doing fucking awesome from now on. This is happily ever after, damn it. After everything that happened in this book. After everything that happened in this book, it better be happily ever after. I definitely want to read more. There is not a character in this family that Ox has built for himself or that built themselves around Ox that I did not love. It's funny, it's cute, it's sweet, it's sexy, it's heart wrenching. I gave this 5 stars. I don't know. I will go on and on and on and on and on and on about this book, so I'm gonna stop now. The last book I want to talk about that I finished in the first half of the month of February is a physical book, The Lesson by Cadwell Turnbull. I'm not sure if, I think since it's a first name, Cadwell would be more appropriate. This is a book I got out from the library. This is the first book I read. The second book I read for Blackathon, the second readathon, like I mentioned. This is the group read pick for team science fiction and fantasy, and it is a standalone. This is a sci-fi, not alien invasion, but alien connection. What's that word? Alien civilization technology. And wow. I gave this 4 stars. I don't even know where to start. I didn't know what to think. I don't really read sci-fi. I do want to read more, and I was very happy to read this. I think I've said it in the past, like, I know I enjoy sci-fi television shows and some movies, but those tend to be like Star Trek and Star Wars movies. I don't really watch sci-fi movies beyond those, but TV shows I'm all over. So anyway, this is the team book and recommended by our team leader, Starlight reads, and basically aliens show up and on Earth, and they're kind of nice, they show up out of the blue over the U.S. Virgin Island, Water Island, I forget, Water Island, and that's where they decide they want to set up base on Water Island, or at least mostly on Water Island. And we're following multiple perspectives in this book. The people of Water Island, various degrees of connections. So it kind of starts off before the aliens get there and how their lives are. And then things obviously change. There's a bit of a time jump to after the aliens have been there, like I guess 5 years, it says. And yeah, so the aliens are the Ena. They show up and they're basically like, hey, we come in peace, and we need to do some research on your planet. We need some things, nothing that'll harm you, but in exchange we'll give you cures to things like cancer, and advanced technology. And so, and yeah, we'll stay here on the U.S. Virgin Islands. So all the big, countries are like, okay, this is basically getting something for nothing. And they agree with it, and it slowly becomes clear that the Ena were not fully transparent about what they're doing on the planet and why. Also, the Ena are violent. They're violent. Very violent, and that becomes clear when there are a couple of incidents between human beings and Ina, and the Ina go from 0 to 100 in a second, killing people for any offense. So like someone getting in their face and being rude while drunk or whatever gets their head ripped off kind of thing. And in one instance, a young man is killed at the hands of an Ina, and now there are protests. It's been a year since his death. There are protests ramping up again, and the Ina have an ambassador on the planet, who is more than you think she is, and it's very interesting. So I haven't really talked about the people in this. The human beings are the focus for the most part. I mean, obviously. And they're very interesting. There were parts where I was like, it started to lean into literary fiction, which I don't hate, but one of my issues is that we tend to get these looks into people's lives in literary fiction where I don't really care about them. I feel like the connection to those people is not built up enough for me to be interested. For me to be interested in the everyday goings on in their lives, and sometimes it feels like a dramatized version of regular things, which I don't care about outside of fantasy drama. So. But, and then there's a couple of parts where we get really technical out of the blue, like what the Enar are doing. They're little kind of nanotechnology type things that they talk to, and the science of certain stuff. And it's just like, oh, wait, what? We were not this technical. But it's very interesting. That's how human beings would deal with not a alien invasion exactly. Like, they're not on the attack, and they really don't have a plan to kill all human beings or whatever, or take over Earth. But they are very insistent that human beings learn the lesson. And I figured out what the lesson was about halfway through. It's hard to articulate, but I think this author really did that in the end. Like, this is what the lesson is, and I really enjoy that when the title comes into things in the book, and it's like, this is what it is. So yeah, check this out. I wound up giving this 4 stars, and I enjoyed it. So yeah, like I said, Blackathon read sci-fi. I don't know sci-fi subcategories, but I want to say this is like a contemporary sci-fi because it's average, everyday USA, just aliens came. And then things don't change that much. It's just, how do we interact with the aliens? How do we do this? And I like it from this point of view. A island, and then these are black people, working class people, poor people who are just left to fend with these aliens on their own for the most part, who are not subject to the same laws or rules, interaction that human beings have amongst themselves, no matter where you go on this planet. And they don't care to even try to assimilate that much either. So this was very fascinating, speculative sci-fi. So yeah, that's the last book I'm going to talk about here. Let me know what you've been reading in the month of February. I'm sorry this video came late, but yeah, let me know what you've been reading. What did you read for Polarthon? Did your team win? At this point, you obviously know Team Arctic Fox did not win, but we did pretty good. I mean, I don't think anyone did badly. The numbers were close for each group. So, But yeah, if you've read any of these books, let me know in the comments down below. For Blackathon reads, what team are you on? Are you on Team Sci-Fi and Fantasy? How are you doing? At this point, this is my second Blackathon read of the month, but more coming. And my next vlog is the Blackathon YouTube week-ish, so you'll see more about that. Let me know what you're reading for Blackathon if you are participating, and same for farofeb. I've, as you can see, mixed in fantasy romance, and we'll get more as the month continues. In the second half of the month, my wrap-up and my vlogs, you will see more fantasy romance. So, like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you are new. Like I said, we'll be getting more vlogs and more bookish content. The next half of this wrap-up will be coming. And so hit that notification bell if you like, and if you're interested in knowing exactly when those next videos drop. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!